Hi, this is Hot Girls Build Cults, the show where we explore the art of gathering, the business of belonging, and the people creating communities worth showing up for. I'm your host, Megan Lycan, storyteller, community builder, and lifelong people connector. Each week, we talk to the people creating movements, spaces, and communities that make you say, I want in. And guess what? You're invited. Let's get into it. Today, I'm sitting down with Becky Pierson Davidson, founder of the Affinity Collective and a former head of product at Boss Babe, where she helped scale one of the fastest growing memberships for women entrepreneurs. With a background in product, strategy, user experience, and community design, she now helps businesses turn community into a real growth engine. Welcome, Becky.
I'm so excited to be here. I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you so much. I guess like a little bit of background, like how I first encountered Becky was just the magic of LinkedIn networking. You had published a post about, I think it was 2026 community trends, or the kind of the topic of the post was just like how community looks different from 2020 to now, and just like how that model no longer works. Like you can't just like create a Slack group, a Facebook group, do a content drop and call it a community. And that resonated so much for me. And just coming from a community member myself, I really wanted to jump into this conversation because I've definitely invested in memberships like that. So, and just the more that I've sat down and listened to your podcast, Build with Becky, I'm just, wow, this girl really knows her shit. So I definitely have to have her on the pod. I think like a really great place to start is just like tell us a little bit about Affinity Collective and how it came to be.
Yeah. So at Affinity, it's a boutique agency. We design, build, and manage community products or memberships. When I say product, like I see community really in my world as a product. So I know we'll talk more about that. So our clients are education businesses. They're really helping with some sort of transformation that their members are going through. Like they all have shared interests and goals that they're working towards. And the purpose of the community is to support them and find belonging on this like shared journey that they're on. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're a small team and we're building really cool products for really cool people. I started my career in tech building all kinds of different software. And so I knew I could kind of like build anything. I mean, that sounds a little bit conceited, but I was like, we could build an agency that builds software for anything. Like I've worked with private jet software. I've worked with like our marketing ad tech platforms, healthcare, like really every industry, name it, I've tried it. But building community just feels good. It's like, this is actually going to make the world better. The products we're building really serve people and help them reach their goals and bring people together. And I think we need that now more than ever. And so that's kind of how it all happened. I got into this industry by working at Boss Babe, so we can chat about that for sure.
Yeah. I guess like, what did the landscape look like in community as you were working at Boss Babe and what you're seeing now?
Yeah, and that post you referenced is something that I've started talking a lot about publicly because I really do think there's been a huge shift. So in 2018, Boss Babe launched the Society, which is their membership for women entrepreneurs. And they made $1 million that first year with their membership business off the back of like launching it on Instagram. And so that was a really big moment in time for this type of business. Like it was really taking off. And I think what they offered was like this very polished masterclass drop every month. Like you're going to get to hear from this like famous female entrepreneur, whoever they are, every month inside of this membership. And you're going to get to go to a call where you get like a Q&A with them. And, so there was some amazing like programming aspects, and that was amazing. Like I'm not knocking it at all. But what's shifted is that today we don't want a library of overwhelming amount of content to check out or like pay for, because honestly, a lot of that stuff is free and easy to find these days. And so that model a lot of people started repeating that model. And I'm not saying like it all started because of Boss Babe, but like this model became really common. Like you're going to get a monthly content drop, whatever that looks like. You're going to get a community, usually a Facebook group, and you're going to get a calls or like coaching call with me kind of thing. And it was very like copy paste every month, except it was a new topic. And one of the problems with this is that the topic is usually random. It's like, okay, this month we're talking about, actually, I talk sometimes about this mistake we made at Boss Babe, which was one month we did a manifestation collaboration. So we brought in Manifestation Babe to do a training. It was like our biggest growth month ever. People were very excited to join for that masterclass.
I'm
But
not
then
surprised. She's huge.
yeah. And then the next month we did one on like Notion systems and so many people canceled. And I always joke, like, I really messed that up because I didn't think about the member journey. Like if somebody joins about manifestation, they're not going to be excited about, okay, let's get into nitty gritty business systems in the next month. And so that was like flag for me. I started to think a lot more about member journey and how did these things like carry month over month. And so now the model has shifted and it's more like you need some sort of backbone curriculum / roadmap like path to give people. Then you need a programming layer, which really is all about integration and actually doing the work and getting things done as fast as possible. Like let's get them a win and a result as fast as possible. And then the community part is actually more the stickiness of like connection equals retention, but that comes later. It's not like the first thing. And we like to force connection in the beginning, meet somebody, do the intro, blah, blah, blah. But like if they're not already on a shared path that they have something to connect over, the programming is actually where they start connecting with one another.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, the community aspect doesn't really become a community without the programming layer. People are really craving more than just a content library. They want that implementation layer, that programming layer that you're talking about.
Yeah, and nobody uses the content library. Everybody says like, "Oh, I'm excited about it, the vault of whatever resources." But the reality is like less than on average people complete less than 12% of a course. They're like not going through a content library and actually using the resources. And in order for that stuff to be valuable, it needs to have a really tangible connection to like a roadmap and checklist that they're following in order to reach their goal. And so exactly what you said, the programming implementation aspect is the part that people don't experiment with enough, that has a lot of opportunity to really drive more connection and more successful results. Because at the end of the day, a community grows, a membership product grows because their members are seeing results and they're talking about it and they're inviting their friends to come in and join.
Right, right. I know that you've said before that, like, the content library doesn't really work because it's super overwhelming for folks.
Mhm.
But also, I think in like your trends report, you're saying that people want information maybe like more quickly, or like they don't want to have to be on calls constantly. How do you bridge that gap between the implementation programming layer where like, it's action oriented, but you're keeping it, simple, concise, actionable for community members?
Yeah, I really think it starts with onboarding and having a few pieces to that. So developing some kind of quick win so that they're like seeing results quickly, that gets the momentum going and they want to keep going. I always ask my clients, like, we'll sort of like outline their onboarding flow. This is like one of the main like juicy pieces we workshop with our clients because every onboarding is so different. But we'll outline an onboarding and then I'll say, okay, how can we make this more fun? This is not fun. We're giving them a to-do list. And they're like, and that's when like they like light up and they're like, oh, okay, we could do this. And they get like really creative. And I'm great. Like, let's make this fun. And then people are more likely to do it. So that's one component. And then the building in personalization. So I have a lot of clients right now that we're developing some sort of like quiz structure or personalization in the beginning that really gives them this like actionable to-do list sort of thing that helps them get the result they're looking for that feels custom to them. And that might mean you have 3 to 5 different paths or results. But those paths are simple. Like we need to optimize for time to value right now because of AI and everything. Nobody wants to watch an hour training on something. And so what that looks like is like really bite-sized modules with short videos, potential prompts, AI prompts, or custom GPTs or tools along the way that basically just speed up the whole process, because people will pay for get me this result fast. And so give them the tools they need to do it as quickly as possible and use modern technology.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense, and it's funny you said that because I was gonna get to next is, like, what does time to value look like in a membership? So it's part of you consider it part of the onboarding process and a really customized, bespoke onboarding process?
Yeah, and it's not even just onboarding, and we think about onboarding as just a starting place, but it's really like, okay, it can last quite a long time. Like, you could be 6 months in and say, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, and you're checking in, there's like an onboarding check-in email scheduled for 6 months later. So, think about onboarding as a long-term experience, but the actual, like, roadmap piece could be longer, or, like, imagine it's longer term, but we're still thinking about time to value. We're still thinking about when we deliver a training or when we give our customers a resource, we're not over engineering or making a ton of content about it when it could be like a 1-minute voice note. Think about how, as just working people, we're like, man, that meeting could have been an email. It's similar in these types of products. Like, don't waste your members' time. If your training could be a minute or a voice note, make it a minute or a voice note. Like, more time is not more value. It's actually the speed at which we get to the result is the value.
Right, and it's similar to the same reason the content library is not valuable. It's like more is not better.
Yeah. We have an overwhelm problem right now. And I mean, that's actually the number one reason that people leave communities. They feel overwhelmed. They feel behind. I can't keep up with all of the stuff. I'm so behind on it. I'm just going to cancel for now, come back later. They never do.
Yeah. So as you're working with, different clients and building out this like programming layer, like when does the community aspect start to come into play? Have you after you've kind of sorted out, this time to value, it's this custom onboarding process to them, then how does it transition into nurturing and getting engagement with the community?
Yeah. While community is more of a later retention piece, like people don't buy community but they'll stick around for community. It's something that we should design for. We should design for serendipity, like from the beginning. And that actually starts from the very beginning, even though it might be more meaningful later on. So an example is like actually just this morning, there's a program that my team runs the day-to-day operations of, and my team member asked me to co-host the onboarding call with her. It's for fun. We were like, okay, sure, I'll jump on and do it. And so we love onboarding calls because we'll like say like, hey, this is an overview of what you're going to get. And so just to set everyone with what is an onboarding call, it's like a welcome call for either in a membership, it's for new members, or in a program, it's like we're kicking off the program. So
Right.
the onboarding call is like the first thing. You could call it a welcome call or a kickoff call. In that call, we say like, we restate all the stuff that's in their emails, that's in their like onboarding flow, but it's like, here's what you're going to get out of this. This is a value, basically reminder why you joined. And then here is what you can expect, like really clear expectations for what they're going to get and how they should participate. That's the first 15, 20 minutes. Then we do breakout rooms. It's like meet each other and we give them a
Mm,
prompt. And so we're designing for connection from the beginning, where they might like have a spark with somebody in that breakout room and they're like, oh, that's cool. And now they've made a friend maybe. And so that's like the first step that we do. And if you're not doing like this live call experience, I mean, you can do member matching, like custom member matching based on their onboarding. That's a lot of overhead. And I honestly think the onboarding call is easier. But yeah, like just designing for these intentional moments from the beginning. In the programming aspect, similar thing, like ongoing, you can do breakout rooms, give people prompts, have them do work together, set up a co-working call, set up a social hour, just like experiment with your programming that includes both do the work, but do the work together as really the mindset.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's such an important step to make is like to introduce your members. Like it sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. They'll have a kickoff call, and it's just a Q&A format. And you'll quickly notice like a lot of people just kind of stay off camera. It's very passive. Whoever's leading the call is just like using like pre-populated questions just in case there's not engagement on the call. And it's funny that like what you're doing again is like I feel like it's stuff that I was just kind of as a community member wanting more and just doing on my own, I'm like, hey, does anyone want to just like have a co-working call? Like we can do breakout rooms. Like if you want one that's like more for like socializing and the other one's more of like a silent, just like it's like body doubling just to get work done. Like that was kind of stuff that I was like implementing like within programs. But so I think it was like right before we started recording, we were talking about community as a product and how it's different than like, raving fans for a brand. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is like, community in 2026 has kind of like a muddied definition or like understanding of what community is. And I feel like a lot of brands are just like, oh, we're a cult brand. We have like, raving fans, like a big following, but that doesn't necessarily make it a community. Like just from like your perspective and like what you're seeing across the landscape and like with clients, if we could just talk about the difference between a fan club and a community.
Yeah. I think one of my first newsletter articles ever was like, don't build a fan club, build a community. It's funny too, because the way you were describing the Q&A calls, like people will do this like kickoff call, but it's like that is a fan club experience. That is not a community experience, because they're saying like, hey, what questions do you have for me? I am the hero of this journey. I'm taking you on on a path. And the reality is like, you're not facilitating community with that format. And so there's a couple problems with that. I mean, one of the things we do initially, I will tell you, like 85% of this 80-person call this morning had their cameras on. They had their cameras on. They were engaged. They were laughing, because from the very beginning, we were playing music. We were like, hey, everyone, like, we're so excited to have you here. We just dropped some stuff in the chat, but just so everybody knows. And we set expectations immediately. We're like, have your camera on. We're going to participate. You're going to meet your friends here. Like, this is what this call's about. It's not sit back and work while you listen in on this. That's not what we're doing. And so just remember to set expectations, because if you want to build community, if you want to create that culture, you have to set the bar somewhere. You have to say, this is what we're creating here. And the number one piece of feedback I give clients probably is like, you're not setting clear enough expectations, and that's why your customers aren't behaving the way you want them to. Like
Yeah.
in anything in life, if we want people to reach our expectation, we have to set it. And that's a piece that I think every membership program facilitator could do better, is like set really clear expectations. The fan club aspect is like, the way you design your program, and the way, even from in the community forum, where it's like, ask Becky a question, or like, like Q&A with Becky is going to mean, hey, I'm the star of that show and come to ask me questions, not, hey, let's like all come together to talk about this topic or discuss this problem, solutions for that problem. It's like a totally different positioning of how it's structured.
Right. Yeah. Just like, yeah, positioning that it's a conversation as opposed to like a one to many. Is it one to many?
Yeah.
Sort of dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think makes like the biggest difference. And it also makes me think that as someone who's building a community or like launching a membership, I think it would make it even a lighter lift for them in some ways than like this previous fan club model. Because if you think about it, like if you spend a lot of hours creating a course and then you're leading these calls, like it can be kind of exhausting to just sit there and like do a Q&A format. Whereas like what I enjoy about masterminds is you're co-creating this experience with your members. And would you agree that like it's almost like kind of a lighter lift for the community builders, making it like a co-created experience from the start?
Absolutely. I talk to founders all the time that are like afraid to take a week of vacation, because they're like, well, my community's depending on me to show up and run this call. And I'm like, what if you ask somebody else to run it? What if you had a community member like, do you have anybody that's standing up? Like, Megan, you described yourself as the ideal community member to have to like tap to be like host this call, because you were self-organizing masterminds within programs you were in. Like that, there are always people like Megan in every community that you can say like, hey, I noticed that you really love connecting with the members and doing organizing whatever. Like, can you run a couple calls for me the next quarter? Like, oh, I'm going to take a maternity leave, or I'm going to take a sabbatical for a month or whatever. Like, you can plan for that. You absolutely can have your members step up or bring in guests or whatever. You're so right. Like, if if you're depending on yourself to come in and do a training or a Q&A in every call, of course that sounds like the worst and like a road to burnout. This community product is a co-created product. And so just organizing like, hey, we're going to do a mastermind where we come, and I'm actually planning one of these in my group. We're going to talk about CRMs and just like nerdy stuff, but like like CRMs for memberships and like how to member management. And I'm doing like a roundtable event about it because I don't have the answers. I want to like bring people together to have a discussion about what the best solutions are here and what different people are trying. And that's like the value of that experience is people showing up and participating.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of founders or community builders are afraid to step away in that fashion because then they feel like they're maybe not delivering value or
Yeah.
people aren't getting their money's worth. But like I think there's some really thoughtfully designed communities that don't have to be so founder dependent. So like, beyond kind of what we've already discussed, are there other ways like founders can, make their communities less founder dependent and community members still are getting value out of it?
Yeah, I think it also comes from the marketing and positioning of the product itself in the very beginning stages. Because when we set expectations up front for what they're going to get inside, we want that experience then to be even better than what they expected. And so if the expectation is like, this is all about me and you're going to connect with me and you're going to learn from me and you're going to do whatever with me, and then inside you're trying to create a different experience, that's confusing. So making sure that what you want to create is also what you're selling is another point I think people get really wrong. There's a membership, like a social media membership, and my friend is the main coach in, and it's like a big creator membership. Like a big creator, sorry, runs this membership. But she says in all her marketing, even in her funnel to sell it, she's like, meet the coach inside this. It's not me. And she's like, has all of these like basically, she's designed this membership for people that are a fan of her, where she's not actually participating in the membership. And because she set that really clear expectation up front, the members are fine with it. They're like, I love Coach Jess. Like, she's awesome. And so I think it's all about like just defining expectations from even before the sale.
Right, right. Do you find like, I guess with her specific example that her clients are just like willing to work with her in different ways, or how does she still embed herself like in the experience without like running every call, I don't know.
I think it's still based on her like ethos and like what she
Mm.
talks about online and why people follow her. In a really similar way, I have developed a framework for building memberships, and my clients and like my team use that framework. And so even though my clients aren't getting me on every single call or working with me on every single thing, my team and I are all aligned in the way we work and the methodologies, which originally came from my brain. And
Right,
so
right,
like
yeah.
it's not about me. My team now serves these people, and it's like there's a bigger, grander vision here. But I set the structure and the methodology. And that's why I think like frameworks and methodology are really important, especially for what we're talking about with like these roadmaps we're creating. And so you can you can own the intellectual property and like the IP that people are working toward while bringing people together to like facilitate that through actually doing the practice of the work and collaborating and connecting with one another. They're just connecting with one another over your thing you taught.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense that like that your clients still feel held and supported and secure because everyone's bought into your framework and your vision and you're all on the same page. So like even if they don't always have direct access to you, they still feel like they're being led.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through our processes and our resources and what we've used across our 100 clients.
Yeah, I actually was going to ask you a little bit about your framework. I joined your training. I think it was like last week. And I guess like maybe it'd be interesting to walk through like how you came up with your signature framework or actually anything you want to share specifically about it.
Sure. Let me just dive into it.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. So I knew that I wanted to develop a framework because I knew that I wanted to develop a membership for our affinity clients. And clearly from everything I've shared, I fundamentally believe we need to like give people a time to value roadmap with like resources that are really helpful to help them reach their goals. And so I'm like, okay, well, what's the roadmap? And so I started just like noticing patterns. And I started working on this in June of 2025 and I launched it in December. So it was a long process of just
Yeah.
like noticing, writing, reflecting what's working, what's not, like every single client example I could think of. I interviewed a lot of community builders that haven't been clients, ones that have, and just tried to really understand what the core problems were when on the road to like scaling their memberships to seven figures. So the framework is called the seven figure connected community model because it's the model that will help you scale to seven figures. So it's the framework. Like when I think about these three stages, there's three stages. It's architect, activate, and then amplify. And when I think about these three stages and I look at the tasks in each of them, like when I really like double click into everything, the companies that are running these seven figure membership products and really thinking about their membership like a product, they're doing all of these things. So a lot of membership business owners come to me and let's say they're at like, I don't know, less than K revenue, or maybe they're at like 100 members or so. And they're like, I'm really ready to scale. I want to scale. 9 times out of 10, they're not ready to scale because there's something wrong with the foundations of what they've built. And it
Mm,
doesn't mean that it didn't work at one point and it was great, but we constantly need to be sort of like iterating because a membership is a people product. And so people evolve. And so we constantly need to sort of, and with each scale, with each level of, okay, now we add another 100 members, another 50 members, another 1,000 members. That means that the like economy of scale and culture changes. And so people connecting with one another becomes a lot harder when you have 1,000 people versus 50 people. And so we just need to like restructure things. So the way I think about this is pretty much every client we work with, we're looking at what are the existing foundations that need to be addressed. And so that comes from looking at the data of what insights do we have, what's working, what's not working, what do people, which features do members love, which ones are they not using at all the data we have available to us from a both qualitative and quantitative perspective. And then we're looking at how is that everything actually structured from an offer perspective? So the pricing, what's included, everything about it. And then I'm looking at member journey. So what is the clear member journey? Is there a clear member journey? What does onboarding look like? And a lot of times we're at a minimum making adjustments to onboarding because onboarding is directly connected to retention and
right.
engagement. And so if we can come in, adjust those foundations, they're way set up better to scale. And so that's kind of like where the framework starts and where everybody that works with us comes in and begins starting with. Even if like, I mean, I'm doing this right now with one of our clients that's 80,000 paying members.
Wow.
So like even that success level of success needs restructuring at some point. So yeah, it's not like a you've moved on to the next level thing. It's like something that's always sort of like iterative.
Yeah. I think that's why I love that you have such a strong background in like product and UX strategy. Cause like even because I also come from the software space and just onboarding so important, but is always like the last to be prioritized. Like everyone's like, just like, let's implement these new features. Like when you could spend more time introducing the product and like how to, you know, just increase adoption like right out of the gate. Like, I think that's why probably you're such an asset to your clients is this focus, like your product background and this focus on onboarding and really personalizing everyone's experience. There wasn't a question wrapped in there. I'm like I see you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's definitely like the differentiator of working with my team. We actually all have a software background. And the reason is because when I worked at Boss Babe, I'll tell you a story. So when I worked at Boss Babe, we did the survey and I found out that our members were not making a ton of revenue. I don't know if I can share the number. They were not making a ton of revenue. Like I was shocked when I saw this number and I was like, okay, we're teaching in the online space, not even just Boss Babe, like all these Instagram marketer teachers are teaching marketing. They're like, let's build a marketing funnel. Here's what you need to do to sell something on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, here's your offer. What problem are you solving? Define your ICP, blah, blah, blah. It's like so simple. What I learned from my research is that, like, I had this moment where I was like, nobody knows how to build a product. Like, nobody knows. Like, they know how to market. Like, they can make a cute little Instagram reel that gets them a bunch of like opt-ins and sales, but maybe. But like, you have to have a great product if you want to have a long-term sustainable business. And so that was part of the reason I just had this aha moment where it's like, okay, I need to go teach people how to do product. And then
Yeah.
eventually I started saying, yeah, we do membership. We build memberships because nobody understands what product strategy is. But at the end of the day, we are a product strategy agency. And that is our differentiator because we're not community managers. We're not marketers. We're product people.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it makes such a difference because, like, and that's why you end up with, you know, people with very large communities with no engagement or, it's people are dropping out, they're not renewing,
Yeah.
all,
Dead. It's
all,
crickets.
yeah, all the
Yep.
things. They're like, yeah, because they use their marketing tools to get everyone there, but then they didn't know what to do with them once they got there or to nurture them and yeah, retain them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about what activation looks like in a community and how you facilitate engagement?
Yeah. So this goes back to our conversation around experimenting with programming and just understanding what works and what doesn't and collecting data. So we run polls at the end of workshops or the end of any kind of like programming events for our clients. And then we compare that data to basically learn like how could we improve things. I started doing this at Boss Babe. Like I remember we had this series that was like, we were doing a 3-part series and with a guest. And in the first one, we were like, what do you want to get out of this series? And then we took the chat responses and used that to design the future 2 sessions. And what this does is that this is another example of co-creation with your community because you're saying like, hey, what do you want to learn? What do you want to get from this? Or like just noticing in the chat what questions came up. So like my team was actually analyzing the community chats and we do that now for our clients. And also we look at poll data at the end. We're like, okay, what's working? Like, what did you love about this call? What could be better next time? How would you rate it? And so we start to notice the patterns, and it's really just like pattern recognition. What calls are people showing up for? What are they engaged for? And then what's the reaction? What's coming up in the chat? What conversations are catching on in the community forum? And using all of that information to drive your programming schedule. So you can take all of that and say, like, okay, next month or the month after, we're going to do events on XYZ, or we're going to try a different style of co-working call, or we're going to do an implementation call about this tool because people are really getting stuck on this tool. But without understanding your members and where they're stuck and where they're interested in, what they're focused on, you can't design programming that's going to get them to like actually show up and do the work. And if you start paying attention to this data, your engagement will go up. Like that's the
Right.
takeaway.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, like, at minimum, how often should you be checking in and surveying your community members? And what would you say is, like, the easiest way to collect that data?
Well, there's a lot of different sources. And so when you say like how often should they be surveying, like we run these calls, I mean there's I don't know, maybe 2 a week in this community because there's like program calls and then larger community events. And we're running polls on every single call. So we use Zoom to run calls and then we use the actual Zoom poll functionality so it doesn't really feel like we're sending them a survey. It's just like,
Right.
"Hey everyone, like we hope you enjoyed today's call. We would love to get your feedback." They know now that like this is part of our process and so they answer it real quick. And we
Yeah.
get like 90 plus response rate. So it's just a poll that pops up like in Zoom. You guys can email me if you want my SOP. Like I have an SOP for this. And so like we basically set up this poll at the end of each call. So that's something we're doing like weekly, okay? But running like a full community member survey, I like doing that twice a year. Or if you're running a program, you definitely want to do an end of program survey. In some cases, we add a mid program depending on like how high ticket it is and how involved, et cetera. Kind of depends. And then looking at like what's catching on in the community forum, that's probably like a monthly exercise. But as like a high level strategist, I'm looking at the data monthly to make decisions about future months.
No, that's So important to just like be checking in constantly. It feeds into how you're building your programming, and then there's more buy-in because they feel like they actually are being heard and seen. You mentioned recently on one of your podcasts, like just how podcasting in general is becoming large, like as a community strategy tool. If we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, podcasting's very interesting because it's such a relationship builder. Like, people that tune into your show every single week feel like they're building a relationship with you. Tune in because they love you as a host and want to like hear what what you're saying next with like who you're bringing on and whatever. Like you are facilitating an experience for them, right? And so it's such a relationship building tool, and yet it's very one to many because you can't actually connect. Like you're like, who's listening? Who's
Right.
listening? Are you out there? Like DM me. And and so like that's hard. And so I think there's just a huge opportunity in the podcast space. I just went to Podfest conference, and so like that's why I recorded that episode because it was very like top of mind for me because I was talking to all these podcasters about community, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I need to be thinking about that more." And I just like we're kind of beyond the okay, content subscription, Patreon, whatever. Like you're going to get additional stuff.
Right.
This is the definition of a fan club, like the existing community aspect of podcasting. But what if you brought your podcast listeners together, especially if your show revolves around a shared interest or goal or like purpose, especially if we're bringing people together to connect because we have this shared interest. Like if somebody tunes into a podcast every week, like I love Creator Science podcast. Other people that love the Creator Science podcast are probably my people because they're like creators that are like nerdy. And so I wonder what Jay would think about my description of that. But like they're creators that are nerdy. And so like I love connecting with those people. And so, when he created a membership, I was like, sold, I'm in, and it just made a lot of sense. And all of the people in there are huge fans of the podcast. Yeah, I just think there's a big opportunity for I guess it's more the other way around than you asked the question. Like podcasters should be building community because there's such a huge opportunity on the table to bring the people together that like care about what they care about. On the other end of the spectrum, I think it's a great business growth tool. Like since I launched my podcast, it's really helped me grow our client base because I'm building a lot of trust through talking about nerdy stuff in voice notes and people listen to it for some reason.
That's me. I like it was funny before I jumped on the call today. I was like, I was so excited, but then I was like, wait, she actually hasn't really met me. So like I already feel connected to you, but like it's but it's the people get to know you and your personality so well through podcasting, and like I said, it feels like there's a relationship already there. But also it is an amazing relationship building tool. Like I'm only on like episode 5 or 6 at this point, but just using it as a relationship building tool and sitting down and having interesting conversations with people and just seeing where it goes, like, is such a cool experience. Like, I'm like, I wish I would have started this a while ago.
Yeah, I talked to the community leader, the relationship connector person, Greg from rss.com the other day. And he had this great idea for podcasters because I've been catching up with people I met at Podfest. And he was like, if you host an interview show, you should be bringing all of your guests together once a quarter or something like that for like a connection event. So that's something you should totally steal. Like that
Yeah.
was such a good idea from Greg. Like doing some because I want to meet the other people you're having on this show. Like they're cool
Yeah.
people and they're building
They're all
community.
community builders.
Yeah, I'm like, great, like let's chat. So like facilitating some kind of social connection call for even as a podcast host, like to bring your guests together, I think is a big opportunity.
Yeah. No, that's a brilliant idea. I'll definitely
Yeah. Can't take
put
credit.
that on the yeah.
But it was really good. I was like, if I was doing interviews, I would do that. But alas, it is a voice note show.
Yeah, yeah. Which again, I love the format. It's such, I think I described it as like a snackable, sized episodes. Like, because I'll go on a walk and they'll just like play one after another. But you pack so much information in such short episodes. And like, you have a really great way of simplifying, sometimes like more technical concepts that I think like anyone who's not like a product person would understand. So like, I definitely appreciate that.
Thank you. I think that comes from, so I like one of my background things and how I got into this space was teaching UX design at General Assembly. And so I had to learn how to teach complex tech stuff and in like a really simple way. And that experience helped me a lot with all of this.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so important because, like, there could be a lot of jargon in the tech space, and I feel like
Mhm.
you do a really great job of making it useful for anyone. And even if like they're not building community, think like, or like like they're adjacent to this space, like it still would be interesting and make sense for them. So I was gonna say, like, as we get, towards the end of this episode, what are you working on right now? What are you most excited about in 2026? Or like what's on the horizon for the Affinity Collective?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the agency a lot like it's less of an agency and more of a community business from the standpoint of we're building digital products. We're building a membership right now. And so it's funny, like I've built memberships for other people, but it's my first experience building it for myself. And it's hard to make yourself your own client. Like I'm not kidding you. I booked a workshop for myself later today. Like it's on my calendar. Like, affinity strategy, like dash affinity. Like it's like inception happening. But it's so hard to like do your thing for yourself. But I've been pre-selling clients into this offer. And it's for advanced community builders that are looking to scale but can't necessarily afford our like full we do everything for you package. And so I'm very excited about this because I want to bring people together that are working on scaling their memberships that are just like, hey, I need to restructure my foundations, or just kind of like working through all the pieces that we've been talking about on this call. And it's like, here's our roadmap, our resources, but also we're going to come together a lot. And it's a place to be a community of practice. So that's what I'm focused on right now is like getting people into that and building that out together, co-creating it. I'm just excited about, I think I texted my friend yesterday because she works with this big creator and he was like, so she does marketing and she works with this big creator and she was like, hey, I mentioned you to the big creator name today. He's worried because he thinks his courses are dying and we've been talking about how he needs a membership model. And I was like, God, it's a great year to be building community. Like
Yeah.
I just feel like our business is really booming. Like everybody
Yeah.
knows that in 2026 you need to bring people together to actually grow your business. Like that's just the reality of the world we're living in, and that everybody feels lonely and like they actually I think we're going to see, I mean, we've already seen this shift, but I think we're going to see a really big shift this year in that people want to buy from organizations they feel belonging with, like
Mm-hmm.
community with. People want to buy from people that's been a thing for a while. But yeah, if you're not building community or like really putting your customers at the center of your business, then you will start to struggle, I think. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't know. I think memberships are like going to be the thing this year. And so I'm really glad I have a membership agency,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, memberships and in-person events, I'm just seeing so many people like build out like dinner clubs or like social clubs, like, outside of the online space, like just so much in-person stuff is super relevant right now. Like I have right now it's just a free mastermind that I'm just kind of like beta testing, but like I definitely want to have like a retreat component as a part of it where you bring it offline and have like your community members get to experience something in person, and make it a little bit fun that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely see that as well. So you were talking about how like a lot of your clients or what your focus is right now is more experienced community builders and scaling. Is there anyone that comes to you that's like too early to work with them?
Yeah. I think if they're like pre any audience or pre any idea and they're just like, I don't know, I think I want to build community because I love community, that's probably too early. And my advice to those people is like exactly what you just shared. Like, why don't you bring people together by doing a dinner or host a meetup? Like, dabble, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
But we do a lot of like beta product strategy for people. Like, just helped a woman who's like launching a community for therapists that want to move abroad. And so she
Very
created this
cool.
program and we did a strategy for her that helped her outline like how should she structure her program, what kind of content should she put in it. And she was making it way too overwhelming and we simplified it a lot. We focused a lot on member journey and she's killing it with her pre-sales already because she's really like building in public. And yeah, I love when people do beta strategy with us because they just see fast results and then they come back. Like last year I worked with this guy Voita he's leading sustainability top voice on LinkedIn. And we did like a program beta strategy for him. He launched it, sold out launch, $50,000. Then came
Wow.
back and he's like, hey, let's do another strategy and talk about community offer on the back of that. We did that and that was successful. I think over 30% conversion, which is pretty typical for us for continuation offers. And then he came back again because he wants to like launch another thing. And so I love that. Like I love
That's
helping people
incredible.
that are early because then
Yeah.
they're successful and then they come back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, very cool. I guess it's like a similar question, because I know your focus is on, you know, people as a product, community first. Like, does your model work for, brands that are wanting to build community, or is there something that needs to be in place first for it to make sense?
I haven't dabbled as much in that space because I think that community managers that have worked in organizations leading community have more expertise than I do in that category. And I always try to own up to like what I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think if it were like there are absolutely businesses that are more like totally just like business brand that are saying like, hey, we want to add a membership subscription offer to our business. And that I'm like, hell yeah, I want to jump in on that for sure.
Yeah.
Whereas like a membership or some kind of program is a product within their business, absolutely. But if it's more like a free community to drum up like cult status, fan club marketing, I don't know that world as well as I know my
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. So definitely membership is a prerequisite to work
Yeah,
with you.
yes, membership or programs with a community aspect.
Well, I won't keep too much more of your time, but this has been a super juicy episode, and I feel like I acquired so much information from you. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
It's been such a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, our website's affinitycollective.co and there's like a link to book a call with me there. And yeah, check out my podcast. It's like a voice note style podcast called Build with Becky.
Perfect. I will add all of that to the show notes, both the website, how to get in touch with you, and the podcast, because I think it's so good. So awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Becky.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Thanks for having me on the show.
If this conversation lit something up in you, this is your sign. Share the episode, start the conversation, build the thing. And if you're creating community, hosting gatherings, or building spaces people actually care about, I want to meet you. I'm Megan Lycan, and this is Hot Girls Build Cults.